Hey, how are you doing? In today's video, I want to talk to you about how to deal with loneliness according to the scriptures. And I need you to stay with me on this one, because I'm not talking about just feeling alone on a Friday night. I'm not talking about missing someone who moved away. I'm talking about the kind of loneliness that sits inside your chest like a stone, the kind that shows up in a crowded room, the kind that's there even when your family is right beside you at the dinner table. You smile, you pass the bread, you answer when someone speaks. But inside, there's this quiet, hollow echo, like you're behind glass, watching everyone else live their lives. You've been doing that for a while now, haven't you? Maybe months, maybe years. And the worst part isn't the silence at night. The worst part is that you can't explain it to anyone. Because how do you tell someone that you feel invisible when they're looking right at you? If that question just hit something in you, I need you to subscribe to this channel right now. Because this is what we do here. We talk about the real stuff. Hit that button. Let's keep going. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through something that I've seen change lives in my counseling office. I've been a Christian counselor and psychologist for over 30 years. I've sat across from CEOs who had everything. I've sat across from mothers of 5 who hadn't slept in weeks. I've sat across from pastors, doctors, teenagers, and widows. And loneliness has been in every single one of those chairs. So today, I'm going to show you what it really is, where it comes from, why it gets worse when you fight it the wrong way, and what the Bible, and I mean the actual, raw, honest Bible, has to say about the person who feels completely and utterly alone. Because there's a man in those scriptures, a man who hit the lowest point a human being can reach. He was a prophet. He had just witnessed a miracle. And then, just hours later, he crawled under a tree and told God he'd had enough. When we get there, you're going to see yourself in him. I promise you that. And when the mind reaches that place, when it genuinely believes no one else is out there, it stops looking for the door. But to understand how this all started, and on that day, everything seemed perfectly normal. You woke up, you made coffee, you checked your phone. Maybe you went to work, or you got the kids ready, or you sat at your desk at home in front of a screen. Normal Tuesday, normal Wednesday. But there was this moment, and you remember it, even if you haven't named it yet. There was this moment when you realized something had shifted. Maybe it was after a big change, a move to a new city, a divorce, a retirement, kids leaving the house, a friendship that quietly faded without any argument, without any big dramatic ending, just gone. Or maybe there was no event at all. That's what makes this so disorienting. Sometimes loneliness doesn't arrive because something happened. Sometimes it just shows up one morning like a fog, and you can't remember when the sky was clear. My wife, Patricia, and I have been married 40 years. And I can tell you, we've had seasons in our marriage where we were in the same bed, under the same roof, raising the same children, and we both felt alone. Not because we didn't love each other, but because we hadn't been truly seen by each other in a long time. That's the insidious thing about this. Loneliness doesn't care about your relationship status. It doesn't care how many followers you have. It doesn't care how full your calendar is. It's not about proximity. It's about connection. And somewhere along the way, the connection broke. You've been functioning since then, getting things done, keeping it together. But functioning isn't the same as living. And then one day, and maybe that day is recent, maybe it was last week, the weight of it became too real to ignore. Something small happened. Maybe someone forgot to call. Maybe you sat at a family gathering and felt like a stranger at your own table. Maybe you opened your contacts and scrolled for a full 5 minutes, looking for someone to text, and you closed the phone. Because nobody on that list would actually understand. That moment, that specific moment of closing the phone, I've heard it described to me more times than I can count. It doesn't sound dramatic. It doesn't look like a crisis from the outside. But inside that person, something cracked. Because what you decided in that moment wasn't just, there's no one to text. What you decided was, I am fundamentally different from everyone else. And that difference is the reason I'm alone. That thought, that belief, that's where it stops being loneliness and starts becoming a wound. You stopped reaching out, not because you're antisocial, because reaching out and not being truly received feels worse than not trying at all. So you retreated. You got better at being alone. You built a very clean, very organized, very quiet life. And now you're here, watching a video about loneliness on a screen, wondering if anyone has ever felt exactly this way. They have. But the story gets darker before it gets light. Here's what nobody tells you about chronic loneliness. The real enemy isn't the empty house. The real enemy is what your mind does when it's been alone long enough. In my 30 years as a psychologist, I've watched the pattern repeat itself with stunning consistency. First, the person withdraws. Slowly. Reasonably, it feels like. Then, they begin to reinterpret their entire history through the lens of isolation. They go back to childhood. They revisit old friendships, old relationships, and they build a case, a very convincing, very detailed, emotionally compelling case that says, this has always been true. I have always been this way. This is who I am. And once the mind builds that case, it stops being a feeling. It becomes an identity. I'm just someone who ends up alone. I'm not easy to be close to. People always leave eventually. You've said some version of those words to yourself. I know you have. And those words have cost you more than you realize. They've kept you from asking for help. They've kept you from starting the conversation. They've kept you in rooms where you were physically present, but emotionally invisible. And the spiritual damage, listen, I need you to hear this. The spiritual damage is enormous. Because when you believe that you are fundamentally alone, you also start to believe that God either can't reach you or has chosen not to. That's the wound beneath the wound. That's what I call the double trauma. The first trauma is the loneliness itself. The second, and far more dangerous, trauma is the theological conclusion your heart draws from it. If God sees me and I still feel this way, maybe even He has turned away. If any part of what I just described lives inside you, I want you to do something right now. Leave a comment below. Just say, I felt that. You don't have to write a paragraph. I read every single comment on this channel. And I promise you, you will not be the only one. Hit that like button too, because it tells me this conversation needs to continue. Now I want to take you to a man in the Bible. Not a parable, not a metaphor. A real man standing in real desert heat, with real exhaustion in his bones. His name was Elijah. And if you know the story, you might think you know what I'm going to say. You think I'm going to talk about the fire from heaven, the prophets of Baal, the great victory on Mount Carmel. I'm not. I'm going to take you to the very next scene. Because that's the scene that changes everything. Elijah had just witnessed one of the most dramatic divine interventions in the entire Old Testament. Fire fell from heaven. The people turned back to God. It was, by any measure, a profound and overwhelming victory. And then Jezebel sent him a message. Just a message. A threat. And Elijah ran. This man, this giant of faith who had stood alone against 450 false prophets, ran into the wilderness and sat down under a juniper tree. And he said this, I want you to hear these words carefully. He said, it is enough. I am not better than my fathers. Let me die. Now, I need you to sit with that for a moment. This wasn't a weak man. This wasn't someone who had given up easily. This was a warrior of faith at the absolute end of his rope. And what did he say? It is enough. In my 30 years of counseling, those 3 words, "it is enough," have come out of more mouths than I can count. Said differently each time. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. What's the point? But the meaning is always the same. It means I've been carrying this alone for too long, and I have nothing left. Now here's what I want you to see about Elijah's psychological state in this moment. He wasn't just tired. He was isolated by his own exceptionalism. What does that mean? It means this. Elijah had been chosen, anointed, set apart. He had seen things no one else had seen. He had walked a road no one else could follow. And that very calling, that very closeness to God, had left him utterly alone among people. Nobody around him could truly comprehend what he had been through. He had no peer, no equal, nobody who could look him in the eye and say, "I know exactly what that felt like." Does that sound familiar? Maybe your loneliness isn't because you're less than everyone else. Maybe it's because the road you've walked has been genuinely unlike theirs. Maybe you've survived things that nobody in your circle has survived. Maybe you've lost things that nobody in your circle has lost. Maybe you've been changed by experiences that left you standing slightly outside of every room you walk into. And that difference, that gap, has felt like a prison. Elijah sat under that tree and went to sleep. And I think there's something quietly profound in that. He didn't pray. He didn't fast. He didn't seek counsel. He slept. Because sometimes the soul has nothing left to give, and the only honest thing it can do is stop. And now watch what God did. Watch this carefully. He didn't send a sermon. He didn't send a rebuke. He sent an angel. And the angel touched him and said 4 of the most tender words in all of Scripture. Arise and eat. Not get yourself together. Not what are you doing here? Not don't you know who you are? Arise and eat. There was bread. There was water. Right there beside him. God's first response to Elijah's deepest loneliness wasn't a theological argument. It was a meal. It was presence, warmth, provision. It was the language of I see you and I'm here. And then, and this is the part that breaks me open every single time, after Elijah ate and slept again, the angel came back and said, "The journey is too great for you. Not, you are too weak. Not, you have failed. The journey is too great for you." God acknowledged the weight. He didn't minimize it. He named it. And that, my friend, is the first step out of loneliness. Not the solution, not the strategy, the acknowledgement. Someone who sees everything, looked at what you've been carrying and said, "That is too heavy. I know. I see it. And I'm not leaving." So what do we actually do with this? Let me give you what I've given my clients for 3 decades, and I want you to write this down if you can. The first thing, stop performing wholeness. Elijah didn't pretend to be fine under that tree. He collapsed. He said the honest thing, and the honest thing opened the door for God's response. Every single time you have said, "I'm fine," when you weren't, you closed a door. Not because you're dishonest, but because someone taught you that admitting the full weight of your loneliness was weakness, or burden, or inappropriate. But look at your Bible. Every single person God moved through deeply, David, Moses, Job, Paul, every single one of them said the hard, raw, uncomfortable truth out loud to God. That's not weakness. That's the language God responds to. So today, before this day ends, I want you to find a quiet place and say it out loud. Say, "I'm lonely. I don't know how to fix it, and I need you to see me." That's it. That's the prayer. The second thing, stop treating loneliness as evidence of your worth. This is the cognitive distortion I see most often. People in chronic loneliness stop asking, "Why am I lonely?" and start asking, "What is wrong with me?" Those are completely different questions. and only one of them leads somewhere useful. Elijah's loneliness wasn't a verdict on his character. It was a consequence of his calling and his exhaustion. Yours may be the result of loss, transition, betrayal, or simply the fact that real connection takes enormous vulnerability, and you haven't been in a place to offer that. That's a circumstance. It is not a sentence. The third thing, receive the small things. When God restored Elijah, he didn't start with the big vision. He started with bread and water. He started with sleep. In your life right now, there are small provisions. There are small kindnesses, small moments of warmth. And because you've been looking for the big breakthrough, you've been walking past the bread on the ground. Pay attention. The angel is already beside you. The meal is already there. The question is whether you're willing to call it enough for today. The fourth thing, let someone in. After the wilderness, God gave Elijah Elisha, a companion, a student, a person to walk with. God's long-term answer to Elijah's loneliness wasn't supernatural isolation. It was human community. I've counseled too many people who have a rich prayer life and zero real relationships. God works through both. He designed both. So if you've been substituting spiritual practice for human vulnerability, I say this gently but firmly, that's not what he intended. You need someone who can look you in the face, who can sit across from you, who can say, "I see you," with their eyes. That might be a counselor, a pastor, a small group, one trusted friend. But you have to let it be someone. So let's come back to where we started. That moment of closing the phone and deciding no one would understand. That moment was a lie. Not a conscious lie, but a lie all the same. You have been building a case against yourself for a long time. And today, with Elijah sitting under that tree as our mirror, I want you to see that the greatest people of faith in history have sat exactly where you're sitting. Not because they were abandoned, because the road was genuinely hard, and because the journey, your journey, is too great for you to carry alone. That's not a weakness. That's the exact truth God is waiting for you to admit. He's not surprised by your loneliness. He's been sitting beside you in it this whole time, putting bread on the ground, waiting for you to open your eyes and see it. You are not invisible. You are not forgotten. You are not too complicated to love. You are Elijah under the tree, and the angel's hand is already on your shoulder. Arise and eat. The journey continues. If this video spoke to something real in you today, do me a favor. Hit that like button right now. It takes 1 second, and it tells YouTube that this conversation matters. If you are not subscribed yet, if this video spoke to something real in you today, do me a favor. Hit that like button right now. It takes 1 second, and it tells YouTube that this conversation matters. If you are not subscribed yet, please subscribe to this channel. Every single week, we sit down together just like this. No noise, no performance, just the honest stuff. And I want to ask you one specific question in the comments. Tell me, when is the last time you felt truly seen by someone? It doesn't have to be a long answer. Just be honest. I read every comment, every single one. I'll see you right there, in that section, and I'll see you next week. God bless you. Take good care.